Okie
Right,
dokie.
Dave.
So this is the interview that almost feels like it was never going to happen from not being able to catch up on the night to me getting in late due to life admin and most recently Zoom-related cock-ups. We are finally here today, separated by a bit of pond between Australia and New Zealand. But through the Anzac and the metal spirit, we are united today with Chris and Dave of New Zealand Stalker.
Air
Hey,
horn. Insert air horn.
no, I've got one.
Hold that. We have come prepared. Go
Oh
for it.
my God, I love it.
Ah! Yeah. Thanks for that.
Love it. That's so good. Man, I should hire you guys for my backup sound effects. I won't even need
Yeah.
like a soundboard. Yeah. So,
So,
yeah.
firstly, thank you for rescheduling, and secondly, sorry for um not being around at the time we said we would
That's
on the day.
okay. That it was a pretty tumultuous day on all ends. I mean, like the amount of bands, you guys having such a
Right.
wild tour, plus poor old Anth, the email he sent about me coming in early to do the interview went to my junk mail. So it was a bit of a crisscross. You know, the gods have tried to thwart this interview, but I'm making it happen here and now. So on
I can still make it happen. I can still thwart it if you
oh
like.
Yeah, we can see. No, we won't.
So guys, on that note, yeah, how are things going right now at the moment? Obviously, we'll backtrack and have a chat about the tour and everything. You guys, has your hangover finished up yet from the tour or what?
Is the hangover,
Yeah.
Dave?
How's your hangover?
Uh,
Yeah, it did take a little bit to clear.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we those Japanese boys really know how to drink.
Oh my God,
You
yeah.
know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever hang out with Abigail in the
Yeah,
end?
I had a chat with them and it's funny because like I drove to that gig and I was like, all right, you know, doing the responsible, all right, I'll sit under the limit, have this, there, and then old mate produces a bowl of makers and I'm like, I'm gonna say no to a shot. So I had to
Yeah,
actually
it'd be rude.
yeah, exactly. But gee, that bottle of makers got pretty quickly ripped out of your
Yeah.
hands into the audience. But yeah,
Yeah,
those guys.
I remember finishing that bottle off, by about 1 o'clock, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I had help, but yeah, I had a blast, man. Those guys really know what they're doing.
mm,
Like, yeah, it's really, yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
yeah.
I
So,
had. Yeah.
what was that? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I had all intentions. The next day when we got back to go to my course, and I called in sick.
Yeah, I
I was
think
tired.
that's a pretty
Um,
safe
I
bet.
was
Hey.
Yeah.
done for a few days, but worth it.
Yeah,
Tell,
absolutely.
tell them about the, yeah, no, never mind, not yet. Yeah, yeah, so it was cool, man. Did take a while, but it was cool.
Yeah,
Had a blast.
awesome. How does it feel settling
That was your limit.
back into
Sorry,
like
how was?
go?
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean,
No,
you guys
No,
are
you.
settling back into you guys are settling back into, I guess, quote unquote, normal life after like such a tour, such an experience. Like, how does it feel to be back home after such a wild gig?
everything's gotten more expensive. The weather is worse. Uh, you know, um, just all the key indicators about living in New Zealand and in Wellington specifically.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
yeah,
I have settled straight back into my rehab centre that I took a 10-day break from to go on my tour. I've got no shame in saying that, but
Mm.
yeah, that's where I've been for the last 5 months.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So let's chat a bit about the tour. Hey, I think the obvious part to start off with would be Brutefest. What were your kind of outside of your own show, which we'll obviously delve into, what were the kind of highlights of the night for you guys, if you can recall?
Yeah, well, I would say just catching up with all my Melbourne friends.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
a lot of friends over there. Unfortunately, catching up with a show for one night isn't ideal, but
Mm.
yeah, a lot of friends from New Zealand live over there. Catch up at shows.
Like
Yeah,
going to
limited.
like a family reunion,
Yeah,
but inside of a wind tunnel. Like it's
Yeah,
really good to see you guys, and I'm fucking stoked to be here. But this is really
not the time or
there's
place
no
to catch
place
up.
to catch up.
yeah,
Like this is ridiculous.
yeah.
Like just enjoy the ride. You know? Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
It's evidenced, I guess, by us trying to set up this interview. Like, you have best wishes, but no, forget it,
Yeah.
man.
Best
Yeah,
laid
you
plans are
talk.
far
You
from
catch up between. Yeah, you talk between songs. I mean, it's a shit show. But yeah, family reunion would be the best way to describe it. But yeah, good to see everyone. Shame that we don't have longer. Yada yada. But yeah, we've been to a few of Anthony's fests now, and
That's your mate bookings, right?
man, yeah, absolutely insane what he does. 2 rooms, bands, man, he does the Lord's work
Yeah, yeah. He
for the
would have.
devil.
Yeah, I made very well sure to just give him a wide berth because man was busy
Yeah,
by his own hand with that stacked lineup
yeah,
he had
and
for Brutefest.
yeah, yeah, a organization nightmare. However, he's there doing merch, doing whatever. He's there for a chat, for fun, drink. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
Mm, mm.
You still got time to like put a little towel on top of your amp, for the headline.
Yep.
Okay, I love that. I love that. I love that. That's so adorable.
And it's those
Thank,
little touches that make the
thanks,
difference
Mom.
too when you're touring, right? And you're dealing with
Yeah,
flights and all sorts of other
yeah.
drama. Just little things like that. They do add up. They do make a difference. Yeah.
He's a machine.
I mean,
It
it's
was,
easy to make fun of, but actually, it is. It's really
yeah,
like having just a baseline level of comfort. Like I'm not fucking 17
Yeah.
anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm,
having
mm.
Yeah,
someone do it for you is just
yeah,
you don't want to you're spoiled. You don't want to go back to doing things on your own anymore.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the experience of the whole tour then, like the Australian New Zealand tour has been really smooth, I take it. Like Brutefest
Oh
wasn't an
man, we've
outlier.
done
Like,
like what 6 or 7 now with Anthony, and they just get better and better and funnier and
Yeah.
funnier. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like we had a great time a year and a half ago with Midnight,
mm,
and then this one just because they just keep getting better.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anthony's obviously, the main ingredient here, but yeah, just the shows were great. Every show was great.
Mm,
Yeah.
Um,
It sounds really corny, but every show was great.
Yeah.
I mean, no thanks, in no small part to him, to your mate bookings and what he does and how he does it.
mm,
If
mm.
something's doing, it's done. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like his car could break down, and shit does happen, but he's so like, so. This sounds like a real cheesy like job interview. Like you
The
giving like
following is
you
not a
run,
paid advertisement yet.
yeah. But no, he's really good. I rate him. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I almost want to go on another tour with someone that's like that hasn't got his shit together just to see because it's been that good. And like, man, there's a lot of promoters, or tour managers that, are just all over the place. But he's
Were I in Anthony's shoes, you might have had a very different experience. There might not have even been towels, for instance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with your tour too, another thing I guess I wanted to raise too, because one of the things that I noticed that a lot of people had said was that you guys actually have a literal following. Like you've got folks coming over from New Zealand, like and catching up at your shows. and that sort of thing. Like you guys have a little bit of a cult following from home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah. We did see people in Auckland saying to us, "We'll see you in Melbourne and like at Brutefest," and then kind of forget about it. And then we're over there, and then I'm just recognize them, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And then remember that they said that they were coming over. Look, I think half of it is just right time, right place. They've
Yeah.
booked their holiday and the show's on, or they've booked a holiday around coming over for the show.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you what, it's the small town folk that travel. Fuck, maybe man, there was a guy that traveled. Man, 1,000 k's. Do you have 1,000 k's in Australia? I think you do.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
do. Yeah, for sure.
coming
Yeah.
into Brisbane, he was like, man, as soon as I saw the show announced, I booked my tickets, and he was from like north of Australia, came down to Queensland. And there's always probably one or two of those people at each show saying
Mm,
like how far they've driven, and I don't know what to say to them.
mm.
I remember back in the day traveling to go see a show and that, but man, it's just you got to be either these guys are like I don't know,
Just
not
dedicated.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
just super
yeah,
dedicated
yeah,
on a way that like is hard to comprehend,
yeah.
but really like yeah, it's just so great. It's mind-boggling and incredible and heartwarming.
And then also to see, a lot of people wearing shirts from our first tour or second tour on
Mm.
our own over to Australia is really humbling too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes,
I
it's
think.
just
Mm. I think the main
maybe
point around
something.
that too, fellas, is you guys have generated quite a lot of buzz around your live show. Like a lot of what was being talked about on the night, even though half of Abigail's, like half the floor lickety split after Abigail. On that note too, I guess I'll just throw in a little tangent there. I think that people might hear the music or see some of the footage and be like, okay, that's like very schlock, cock rocky kind of stuff. But I think what they miss out on with a Stalker show, like for me, like I already was like, dear Christ, I cannot headbang anymore before your set started. And by the end of it, I was like, I'm going to need a spinal surgeon. Like this is 10 times heavier. Like I'm always expecting heavier live, but you guys are decently heavy, thrashy, fast. And I do feel like from a punter perspective, quite a lot of people that say, for instance, I don't know anyone that bailed, but I know that half the floor cleared at the tote after Abigail. And at that
Yeah.
time, I was thinking, look, fair enough. They're probably less into the classic trad metal-y stuff. But also during the set, I was just sitting there thinking, missed opportunity for you guys. So, I guess my
Is it
feedback
the
around
first
your
time you've
show.
seen us?
Yeah, yeah, first time.
Oh
And
yeah.
Hey, okay, you know what it was? Let's counter that. You know what it was? It was because a huge pit opened up, and these people just had nowhere to go. Like
yeah,
I was gonna jump in the crowd just for like shits and giggles. But man, if I went in there, I would have gotten my ass eaten. You know,
yeah.
like
Do you reckon
my
maybe
base
some people
notes.
left because they got just completely minced in that pit and they were like, I'm out, I'm done, I've been going since 4 o'clock.
Yeah, man. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah. Because you guys as well, I think with your live show too, like again, it's one of those things where I think people can make like assumptions like, oh, it's going to be big 80s rock riffs and that sort of thing. But the thing I noticed about both your guys, like all your guys playing is like you're throwing a lot of stuff in there, like through the set I was getting speed metal, thrash, you're getting your very arena rock flourishes, but you guys are actually playing quite a lot of the the co-headlining with Abigail makes sense to me because you're playing a lot of like fast running stuff like, and for me I guess I'm interested because you guys were diving off the stage. And Chris, you're doing solos over Dave's back at some point. You guys are basically running into each other, doing dual vocals. Like, um, it's actually there's quite a lot going on with your live show, and you guys are managing
Yeah.
to hold it and play. You know what I mean?
Well, barely. I would argue. I would argue no, but
Maybe.
you get away with if that was a live recording and you went back and listened to that at home, you go, "This is a pile of dog shit."
Well, we don't know.
No,
we have a scene.
I've done that before, but
Yeah.
but you're there in the moment, and and you try and hold your beer. You're trying to protect your beer from getting wasted, and like shit's going on, chaos is happening. There's lights flashing and shit, and that's what matters. No one really is analyzing note for note what you're playing.
Yeah, it might be.
You know what I mean?
It might look a little easier said than done, but it is hard work. But as Dave said, I'd rather put on a show than sit there and stand there and play everything note for note perfectly.
Like, I don't think I've ever in my entire musical career, ever played a show flawlessly. Ever.
Also, going back to the styles crammed in, is something that I would assume hopefully every band's aware of, but I guess we just take some of our influence and try and create our own sound, without going over the top. But in saying that, paired up with Abigail have got the same kind of thing. They've got some, some rock and roll, some black metal. They've got, and it works. It's them. So hopefully it comes across that way. But the stage show, we do feed off the crowd too. And then secondly, it's just natural. Nothing's really. It's just always been like that. So, and when I watch bands and stuff, it's, I think showmanship, if that's the correct term for it, is putting on a show is what it's all about as well.
Yeah. And I think it's easy if you're playing metal, like the archetype is we're also very used to having, the stone-faced, no facial expression, left hand is doing these ones, guys just sort of standing there. So it's easy to fall into that trap, I think, no matter what with when you're playing metal.
I've noticed there's a sweet spot in terms of at least speed and complexity of a song when you're playing live. If you're playing super fast, you're trem picking and your hands going like bananas on 68 strings. You really don't, you physically like can't do anything else. Otherwise you'll fuck it up. And the whole point of it is you're doing this. And the audience is focused on your technicality. Yeah. And on the other side, there's like maybe indie music where the whole point of it is everybody is looking at you wearing your work clothes, staring at your fretboard.
That's such a good.
It definitely, it definitely fits into a category of your.
And we could play slower. Like Abigail kind of play a little bit slower generally than us, but they still have heaps of room to fucking like. It's still heavy and there's still like speed and there's still madness. There's still insanity. We just, we sort of operate in my mind in this sweet zone, and also like. Chris being able to actually play and actually move around it's a very rare skill, I've noticed. I'm always trying to get Nick to stand up and like fucking stage dive or whatever, but he's way too chicken.
Someone has to pick him up and throw him at some point. I'm sure that's going to eventually happen.
He's actually incredibly strong. I would never dare do that.
But let's go back to like some band that's even some black metal bands. I don't know. It's not really my forte, but you watch kind of like the OG black metal stuff. They've got a stage show too, and you got bands that kind of just are just there like this. If that's the case, and if that's what you can do, then I'd create a show around that. There's always ways to bring the audience into your world, I think I think that's very important. But
a little theatre never hurt anyone.
Yes, theatre.
Yeah. Well, on that
maybe
note
sacrificing. Go back to sacrificing things on stage.
Yeah. Yep. Sacrificing. Yeah. Sorry, livestock, but yeah. Anyway, PETA is coming after me after this interview, but anyway. But on that note as well, too, guys, like, it's not just your performance. It's not like you're getting up there dressed like indie musicians. You've got the whole getup. You've got the spandex, you've got the studs, you've got everything going.
I modeled my look after, obviously, a lot of Judas Priest, but it was mainly Lips from Anvil.
Right.
I don't know what it was. Yeah, I've kind of he's and we kind of look the same too, but yeah, that was my what do you call it? Inspiration. Yeah. And yeah, without getting too silly. Yeah, it's just part of it.
It just on the performer's side of it, like it's like when you would go out on a Friday, Saturday night, and you put on your good shirt.
Yeah.
And because you want to feel good, you want to feel different to how you dress all week. It's not as like obvious as donning a new persona or anything. You're sort of accentuating that part that needs to come out.
Do you guys
kind of goes with the music as well?
No,
obviously.
Yeah, if I'm going to a 4-day
dress like the village people.
If I'm going to go to a 4-day rave, like I'm going to need like Pooh-Catcher pants and like a hemp shirt and shit, and like you sort of it does help you like get into the zone, right? But also if your zone is like wearing shit that you finished your shift in and come on through and you're having a blast, like also who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
like do that. Just do what you want to do. Be who you want to be, man.
Do you guys find that putting that gear on? You mentioned before, like it gets you in the mindset. Does it actually? Do you guys feel it helps with like performing, like just donning that gear and?
Yeah, for me personally, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I think wearing spandex as a male, if it was socially acceptable, it is very comfortable.
Yeah.
Feels like you're wearing nothing. Actually kind of does give you some nice curves. Problem is that the wind just goes straight through you. It's like, wearing nothing. So, but
but there's a practical component to it, is what you're saying.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, maybe that's the secret all along. Maybe it wasn't even ever fashion. Maybe it was just all practicality. But either way,
maybe those road cyclists know something that we don't. They do.
Do they?
So we'll be seeing shaved legs for the next Stalker tour then?
No,
I shave my arms. Yeah.
Reach too far. Yeah. And
I just shave my hand.
Yep. Well, it'll make you fret faster, maybe. I don't know. That's totally serious. So that's whatevs. And what about, so you guys are Wellington based, yeah? Do you have any kinds of equivalents of yourself in like the local scene or the NZ scene? Because I know you guys are doing a pretty out there, pretty your own thing, but are there any bands?
Yeah. The reason I had another band before this band, and the reason I started it was because there was none of this music around.
Yeah.
There was in each other city around the world, but there wasn't here in New Zealand. And it was good to fill a gap.
Yeah.
And also, the show wasn't as spectacle as what we're doing now, but it was, and the style of music, it was, it was a little genre crossing, as in, a lot of shows in New Zealand are genre crossing.
Yeah. People
go to a lot of shows, but, you would have, people that weren't necessarily into that music coming along because it was a good live show and it wasn't too heavy,
More like because New Zealand is so small.
Yeah.
You don't have the luxury of a clique, of a niche.
After that band There's a little bit of a break, and then we started this band, and I think in the last few years there's been a few more speed thrash bands. I'm not saying because of us, but definitely going to say that.
Definitely not because of us.
Definitely say that we were definitely, one of the only bands doing it for a while.
Yeah, for a long while.
And it's an interesting comment on like kind of the cross-pollination of shows and lineups and genres because I'm from regional Australia myself. I spent a lot of time. I live in regional Australia now.
Where are you?
I'm living near about half an hour near Geelong, so about an hour and a half from Melbourne. And it's similar.
What's your address?
Hey?
What's your address? I'll just,
we went out to Geelong on our second headline tour.
Mm.
And man, we were so blown away. The whole place was full. It was that place. Is it Medusa?
Medusa Bar, yeah. It's a very
I think that's
almost like
now.
a corridor. Yeah.
Yes, it was like a shoebox. And man, half the people or 2/3 of them were from Melbourne because the night before was Napalm Death was on. So they came out to see us in Geelong.
So you're saying you struggle living even outside of Geelong. You struggle like getting your needs met, as it were. So you're forced to go see what you can instead of what you want to necessarily. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying
no, I think it's more, I think what I've found, especially moving, because I've also lived in like Brisbane, Sydney now, and most recently before Geelong, Melbourne, is I'm not used to the idea of click specific, genre specific lineups, you know? Like for me, I would go to a black metal show regionally or in a smaller city, and there could be a power metal band on, there could be a funk band on, funk metal, you know, it's just a sort of a bit of everything. And I get the sense that New Zealand's a lot like that, like a lot of the music community over there. It's
So going back to the, is there anyone else like us or whatever the question was? You might have 4 thrash metal bands in Sydney, 4 thrash metal bands in Brisbane, and in Melbourne. I can tell you probably off the top of my head. New Zealand, I can't even tell you more than 2 or maybe even 1. Now, in saying that, you're not going to have those 4 thrash metal bands all playing together on the same bill in Melbourne or Sydney. Just doesn't, probably.
I think like
the logistics of that probably wouldn't work out getting all those 4 bands, but man, imagine hearing thrash all night, 4 thrash bands. Oh, it'd be pretty sick, but
I love it, but I wouldn't do it every week.
Yeah, the thing is about like that size, New Zealand size, and is like it's our biggest weakness, obviously, and it's also, I think, our biggest strength.
I mean, Wellington's only 400,000 or 500,000 people.
It's as corny as it sounds. Like it is a melting pot. You want to be entertained. You got to go see something that might be like not your pick, but you'll go there and you'll have a fucking blast.
And that's the good thing about it. You're seeing things that you might not see.
And then you like have a talk with the guys after the show, and turns out they're pretty cool, and like blah blah blah. And
next thing you know, you're in the band.
Especially if you're the drummer.
Next thing you know, you're putting up towels for them at their next show on top of the amp.
At least you might get a shot of Makers out of it. Yeah. And so the other thing I think too with that as well, that I just want to raise is like, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about New Zealand musically, like metal, that sort of thing. There's a lot of bands coming out that people are just blown away by, like for instance, Ulcerate are huge over here now.
They've blown up big time in the last while. Yeah, and before that, they were whole underground.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got.
You ever been to New Zealand?
No, I would absolutely love to, because the other thing is the trope about, I think, and this leads into what I was sort of tangentially going on about. I think when people over here think New Zealand, they think sheep shagging stereotype, lemon and pyroa, cold weather, beautiful vistas, but not much in the way of music. But I think that
You're wrong.
tide, pardon?
All these things are still true.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, I got
Like
they
you're
are
not
true.
wrong. Yeah,
But
but I
what
mean,
often
No,
gets,
true for a reason.
they're not exclusive. You know,
yeah,
all things can be true all at once.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So
I
yeah,
think,
there is some
mm,
really exciting music. There always will be. See above under like having like it being so small and having to make your own fun
mm,
and everyone sort of mates with everyone else to a degree. You know.
And
mm,
we're isolated with a lot of depressive music.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it is. It can be great if you don't give in to the voice of the sheep calling you over the fence. You know, if you got a mate to hold you back, you can probably get some good work done.
Well, fun anecdote from me. I'm from a single parent family, and I spent my whole life ripping on New Zealanders, mates growing up, bloody Kiwis, rah, rah, rah. Had to get my birth certificate for my passport. Well, guess where one of my biological parents is from? That's right. So,
Right. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you're the one on the end, eh?
that's it. Stops being funny when it starts being you. Look, we got enough tropes over here, Crocodile Dundee and all that sort of stuff. But I think
I mean, that shit's all true as well.
exactly. Yep. Yep. You call that a knife? Um,
Yeah. You call that annoying?
we can do annoying. We sure can. On that point too, you just mentioned a little bit before, like New Zealand tends to produce a lot of like depressive music because, weather, isolation, etc., etc. But I would say Stalker is very much in the other direction. Like, and the show is in the other direction. It's focused on like fun. Like, yeah, you're
Yeah,
talking about. Mm. And do
yeah.
you find
Well,
that
I mean,
that
we're not all depressive.
It's just I guess how an artist in air quotes like deals with their reality.
mm,
You know, like me personally, I'm like super depressive. You know,
mm,
like day to day, like I'm a son of a bitch to be around.
mm,
But I like to make the stuff I like to make is really a response to that. Like I want to be I want to be entertained and I want to have fun.
mm,
So
mm,
like
And
it's
also to that, I didn't choose the music chose me.
mm.
As in, I have only listened, once I got into heavy metal, I've only listened to the same thing. It just hasn't changed. And I'm quite narrow minded when it comes to my heavy metal. So it's just what got me.
I'm just mindful that because we run this podcast for free and we do have an offer for donations, blah blah blah. We've got a minute left on the clock here. I'll
Who's the
edit this out,
sponsor?
but I can circle
Can
back
we
in and we
shout it
can.
out?
Hey?
Is it dollar razor shave thing?
Consider that intermission music. Hello everyone, it's Brady here from Inner Strength Check. Once again, we were cut off by the gods of capitalism, with God Joaquin from D&D, etc., etc. Just a little bit of a reminder here that our show is volunteer run and led. So if you would like less annoying intermissions in the middle of your interview media from me, consider supporting the podcast over at ko-fi.com, ko/fi.com/inner strength check. We don't have a subscription model. We don't utilize any advertising. Might have sounded in the interview like we we're giving a bit of a plug for Anthony. That's only because the man really knows his shit and does a great job as a promoter. Other than that, we have no sponsorships. The team is entirely volunteer led and I operate on a voluntary basis. So I don't need to charity mug anyone. But if you do feel like supporting homegrown music journalism, gaming journalism, and discussions about important things like mental health, creativity, and the like, feel free to drop us a buck or two on Ko-fi. There's no minimum amount, I believe, and your support will get me caffeinated. And as the guy running this whole show, more caffeine equals better content and more of it. So I just thought I would leave that thought with you there. You're under no obligation, but I also wanted to give thanks while I'm in this little intermission and before it goes too long, because Brain Machine broke. Big shout out to, once again, from Anthony from Your Mate Bookings. Big shout out to Stalker, Abigail, and all the bands that we recently reviewed on our massive Brutefest review, which is up on the website. And a little bit of a side tangent recommendation to check out Dean's insane coverage of Ragnarok Festival while you were meant to be on holidays, Dean. Anyway, I appreciate it. It's a good review. So, if you like the show and you want to support weirdos doing weird stuff, do feel free to drop in on the website, innerstrengthcheckpodcast.com. Reach out to us if you would like some of your music promoted. Always looking to feature bands on podcast episodes and featuring some of our other content, as well as put up promotions, all that sort of thing. Okay, I've blabbed enough. Let's get back to the three of us blabbing too much. Thank you, and as always, peace, love, and grindcore. Or in this case, speed metal. Also relevant. Cheers. So, part two. Let's go.
Yes, part two.
Yep. We can't.
What was that mug?
Just a.
Oh, I thought it said sponsor.
$2 store.
Yeah, but do you know the joke I was making with the razors, the dollar shave on every podcast that came out? Was it funny?
No,
it was funny.
No, really.
Anyway, we're not sponsored by Manscaped or whoever does all those YouTube ads.
Nah, Manscaped's the new one. No, that's the new one. It used to be dollar shave.
That'd be a good advertising pivot, actually. You know, you guys wearing spandex. It's like, hey, if you want to dress like Stalker, manscaped.com. I'll happily take that. But on a more serious note, as serious as I can be, I think we're touching on some good threads there just before we got cut off by Arch Lady Zoom. But we were talking a bit about how day to day, how life. I mean, I also struggle with my own mental health issues. Like you can tell if you're around me on a day, but it's probably a little bit harder to tell at a gig because I'm like an excitable little ADHD ferret. But I think on that note, for you guys, how do you find the experience of like being in Stalker, playing in Stalker, not just the shows, but the whole process, writing, recording? How do you find that helps you guys?
How does it help us?
Musical therapy. I think it's a good, it's good.
So you touched on a couple of weeks ago. You were told that you need like an overarching hobby. Is this ringing a bell? You need.
I just been recently diagnosed with ADD, which has been people have been
Welcome
telling
to
me
the club,
my whole
my friend. Yep.
Yeah. I've got OCD my whole life, but I was looking into ADD, and it said that they tend to have a super project that they work on.
Yep.
Yours might be your podcast thing. Mine's my band, where you just put all your time and energy into it, and it works really well.
Yeah.
Apart from that, your life's in peace.
Yeah. Look.
And I was reading it, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but there's obviously positives about having that ADHD or ADD or whatever, where you hyper focus on something and you do it really well, but it's just all balanced stuff. But I think in terms of how does it, if the question is how does it help your mental health, I think anything arty. I mean, if you're an art type creative person and you've got some mental illness, I think, it's a given. It's
well, every artist does have.
Yeah.
I'd argue every artist, or any creative,
we have one class a week of art therapy at my rehab. Someone suggested why not music therapy. They did do it for a couple of classes, but
it was terrible.
So, I went around the room. Everyone had to pick a song they wanted to listen to.
Did you get up on? You didn't get up on the table and scream "Born of Steel."
I put on "Be My Lover" La Bouche.
Okay, nice.
So the good thing about that actually is that like it covers everything. There's so much admin to do, which loves. He genuinely loves and genuinely is good at it. There's creative stuff, you're making something out of nothing. There's there's sort of marketing stuff, as boring as that shit is. Like every single element of anything you could almost think of anything.
Oh, who was that?
Laura, she's closing the door. Maybe we're being too loud. Nah, just giving some.
Nah, I'll tell you why she popped in, because she thought interview was over. 30 minutes is up. Well, little did she know that we've gone in for another round.
We've gone private.
She's in cahoots.
It is. The bigger the band gets, the more of everything that needs to be done, except for like writing music.
Yeah.
And you look at any band, and there's someone doing something, and all important. Unfortunately or fortunately, it's all down to someone in the band now. Back in the day when bands were good and big, you had some, it was all done for you. Yeah.
So you're finding a lot of musicians.
Now we've hit the big time. You got people like Tony driving us around and giving us hand towels at our shows.
But that's also a good point. Like you do have to do more as a musician these days. There's less actual industry scaffolding around you to help with all that admin sort of stuff. And it sounds like for you, Chris, like that it helps that music and the band is your hyperfixation, because it's boring organizational stuff, which everyday life, I'll do it tomorrow. But because it's couched, it's band stuff.
Someone else.
It's a little bit more.
100%.
Yeah. And for you, Dave, how do you find your experience with playing with Stalker, like just in general, how that helps improve your life day to day, week to week?
So like my views on being in a band is, it's like, first of all, it's like a social thing.
Yep.
If it's not working out, like if you're not, you're not just hanging out with your mates, and that's all there is to it. But at the top of the pyramid is like it's a social enterprise, and then there's some like the benefits of creating something brand new, and so you get a buzz off that as well.
Also with Dave, which I haven't really found with many other people, is if he wasn't doing a band thing, he'll still be in here every day making music just for himself.
Yeah.
Which I find very bizarre. But inspiring.
Yeah.
Because we all started off that way.
You guys obviously a really driven trio, right? Like if and I think that reflects with...
I would say driven duo. Cut that part out. I'd say driven duo. Drummers are a breed of
their
own. Yeah, absolutely.
I asked Nick today what he does for a living. I still don't know.
We know he plays shit hot drums.
Oh yeah, no, he's the best. I don't want to play and Stalker with any other drummer. He's the best. Except for Ryan Bennett sitting over there.
We've got since you rejoined us, we've got a guest in our studio that's sleeping here for 5 days. Who's also a music nutter.
Awesome. We're surrounded by
We
music
put him
lovers. I
on.
love it.
We bring him in. No.
Look at him.
He's saying yes.
Yeah. So it is like it's necessary, I
Mm,
think.
mm.
Kind of just to quickly answer what you asked. If I wasn't in a band, I would do all the analogs to being in a band.
Yep.
I'd still be making shirts. I would still be recording and making up cool songs,
Yep.
but I would have no one to play it with or to.
Which doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean, but being in a band like gives me the opportunity to like fucking play with a smoke machine
Yeah.
and
Liberally.
shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
smoke machines are one of my favorite inventions of all time, I think.
I could tell.
I was controlling the smoke machine with my foot and playing at the show.
Yeah, he knows.
Damn. That's some real one-man band energy right there.
Yeah.
Foot on all the pedals. And in
Yeah.
terms of, so we're talking a bit about like your process and your day to day. What about, since we've been talking a bit about the past, what's going on at the moment in the band? Are you guys, it sounds like you're busy and hectic enough with everything that writing's a bit on the back burner, but have you guys been working on any new material?
We have been working on always, well, as we just carried on from what I just said about Dave always making music. Because of that, he's got over the last, since our last release and before that, he's been writing a whole bunch of shit. And usually, no, not
Whole bunch of
shit, as in it's shit, just a whole bunch of shit. Before that, everything that we wrote kind of went towards an album. And then after 2 albums and a bit of time, it's now caught up where we've had to go through a whole lot of songs to find out what we want to use. That took a long time. There's a lot of material there. And then
to create a more coherent release.
Then, finishing them and stuff like that. So I don't like to talk about count my chickens before they hatch or whatever, because I know that someone says new album coming, and then 2 years later people still waiting. So but yes, we've got a lot of stuff written, demoed, and we're just going through the process of learning it and then soon to record it. So yeah, there's lots. So the plus side of not having anything out for a while is we do have a lot of stuff up our sleeves. Yeah.
So you've banked a fair bit in the interim.
That's correct.
Yeah. And with your
some of it's even good.
I love it when that happens. And in terms of your process, like who kind of is it a relatively like the share of the songwriting? Do you guys all kind of pile in, and what's your kind of flow with songwriting?
Up until recently, it used to be kind of like Dave would always come to me with something, and I would add quite a lot to it, and it would be a 50-50 kind of thing. Since I've gone more admin, we've just separated our strengths to what they are. So unfortunately, my strengths is doing a lot of admin stuff, where I've freed up Dave to do a lot of the art and music stuff. So most of the new stuff's all Dave. What I've come in with is really kind of Dave's, I wouldn't say weak point, but is...
No, I feel like...
producing.
I can say I couldn't admin my way out of a wet paper bag.
So because of that, I've done less writing, and he's done more, which I'm completely fine with, because I enjoy it and all that, and he's doing a great job. Only thing I've really done is kind of just I guess the term producer, come in and been like, maybe this here, do this again, kind of thing. Dave's more than capable of doing that. But yeah, it's nice to, do a lot of writing and let someone else kind of, we both trust each other, and we both do it together, and there's no arguments yet.
That's good innings.
Yeah, it is. I think that's really good. I don't think we've had any bad anything.
Mm.
I mean, we are, we've been around the block. We're a bit older. Maybe that might be cause for more arguments with some people, but yeah,
Or
yeah,
or also less ego, less young rock
yeah,
star. Look, I'm the new John Petrucci, so this is how it's fucking going,
yeah.
kind of thing too. You,
God, our kids like that still.
I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah,
maybe I sound old and dated by quoting a guy from Dream Theater.
yeah,
That,
yeah, yeah.
well, that in my experience, like circling back to like part one of this interview, see what I did there?
Hey,
Uh, we like New Zealand being so small, that behavior gets called out pretty quick,
yeah,
and that's like you don't you that's a luxury that you don't have here. Like
yeah,
you get given a wide berth if you're known to be like have a big ego or like a predator or just
mm,
problematic really.
mm,
So
Australia has a lot of that too, but on the flip side to it, they call it tall poppy syndrome
yeah,
or gatekeeping or something like that.
mm,
And you know what? I think it's both have their valid points, but yeah, usually it's I do think that there needs to be some rules and some learning.
yeah,
mm,
I'm a skateboarder my whole life, and like we'd go down to the skate park and start acting like a kook. We'd get told soon enough, what's going on,
Oh yeah,
and
you'll cop a truck.
that
You'll cop some trucks to the nose and have a nice
yeah,
facial
and in the
reconstruction. Yep.
music scene, that doesn't really happen, and I think things like that should happen. And then if it does happen, then they start calling out, oh, you're better than us, or you got or tall poppy syndrome. You want to, but it's
what about when
do you know what I mean? Does that make
what about
sense?
Makes
when
sense.
so this last one with Abigail, Anthony from Your Mate Bookings, one of his big ideas was to get us to swap the last show, swap the last act.
So
Like,
each town had a different. We'd swap who finishes.
and then
Ah, yep.
we played Wellington in our hometown, and then the word on the street from some of the punks that showed up,
Oh, really? Did
they
you
were
hear
like, "Who do they think they are?"
Really?
Like, yeah, it's true.
Who was it?
I'm not, I'm not. This
Tell
is,
me.
this
You
is
don't
their
want to call
problem,
out one
not
of the
my
five
problem.
people.
Yeah,
I'll message them after.
yeah, yeah.
Tell them outside their door.
So like things can like go to an extreme, but that's
Mm,
obviously just catty. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
actually, that's more a symptom of the modern punk scene, probably.
Mm, mm, mm.
Virtue signaling and shit
Yeah.
like that.
I don't think that.
Like I think maybe just a little bit of bullying is okay. You know, that kind of keeps you
Self-governing.
humble.
Mm.
Tough, yeah. Just within reason. I think there's perhaps room for that. Given
But
in
yeah, it's a fine line between keeping things
real,
real and letting shit get out of control.
yeah,
But it sounds like, and again, I think it's a good analogy, like in bigger cities and like especially like even outside of Australia, like you could go to a festival where it is that genre and there's that clique and that is their life sort of thing. Whereas
Yep.
somewhere like where you guys are, Wellington, the New Zealand scene, would you say maybe that because it's more tight knit, it is more self-governing because you just if you're gonna prance around like a big fish in a small pond in a scene like that, like the community's linked enough, it's tight knit enough that you're not really gonna last acting.
Yeah, both apply. You start to get like you know small town behavior, which can
Yeah,
be even worse.
yeah.
But both apply. But some yeah, unfortunately it's case by case. But a lot of the times it's justified, and then a lot of times it's not justified, and it's down to the person having a hissy fit.
Mm. And outside of the behavior of the scene and how we address that, let's talk a little bit about the New Zealand scene. Are there any bands that you guys have got your eyes on at the moment? I know I've got my eyes on a few. There's one I'll give as an example. I don't know how to say it, so sorry, RVVKVS, but they're like a death metal grindcore band. But for me, they put out one of the best grind albums, EPs of last year. What are some little local slash
How do you
NZ?
spell it, Brady?
Off the top of my head,
Hmm.
RVVKBS, and I might be getting that wrong. But do you guys have any examples of some other little like NZ treasures that maybe our
Yeah,
listeners
well,
might
funny you
not
should
be?
say that. We just saw a band in Auckland, a new band, and these guys are old heads. They played in one of the first black metal bands in New Zealand for a long, long time. I think they're in the band for 18 years. What was the band called? Winter Deluge.
Mm.
They've 18 years in the band, Jesus Christ. Their new band is kind of new Obermish, and yeah, it was killer. That was in Auckland.
So who was the first band?
Cesura, they were really good too. Yeah,
Sisura?
yeah. So getting out and playing with these bands, you know, awesome gems that you find online or live. But yeah,
Mm.
So the good thing about this band we played played with in Auckland, Sisura, they're all really, really young.
kids. I think
Mm.
they came to our first. They came to our show last year, I remember, and 6 of them came in with one of their dads.
Yeah, yeah.
That's adorable.
You know,
Yeah, it is. It was adorable.
but also it's really earnest, and they're playing from the heart. They're obviously kids, but like you can't like anything you want to say just to like kind of give them a hard time. You need to temper with like, holy fuck, these guys are like absolutely just going for it,
Yeah.
and like they're having the best time, and they are loving the environment that they're making for themselves. Everybody's loving their music. Like all the best thing we could do is to like get out of their way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not.
Yeah. Like after they played first, and then for the entire rest of the night, all the like fucking 6 or 10 of them were lined up the front, just absolutely thrashing,
Yeah.
ripping their necks and stage diving.
So it's good to see the next gen coming up, kids. Yeah,
keep an eye out for them. Really good.
Same thing with Singing Bird Studios in Frankston.
Yep.
Both times where we played there at their Singing Bird Festival.
Flipping the Bird
Festival.
Yep.
They're playing with Abigail there. I kind of forgot that it was all ages, and I walked in the first time, and I was just like, first thing I saw was like, what the fuck, something's different here. And it didn't occur to me until about an hour later that it was an all ages show, and there were just kids everywhere, and I loved it. Because when I first started shows, 14, 15, there was a lot of all ages shows. We talked, late 90s, early 2000s. And I think they're starting to come back a little bit now. Yeah, I don't know how that kind of, I guess it's just, is there someone around that's putting them on and there's a building up the kind of scene, but it doesn't just come out of nowhere. I mean, there's definitely kids out there who listen to music, but I think it's definitely a thing I'm into. Not young kids, just he's not laughing.
Well,
there he goes.
The band is called Stalker, but I plead the fifth, Your Honor. No, I was just on an interview with these gentlemen. I otherwise don't know them.
I don't know them.
I've never met this man in my life.
Yeah. Dave, who? Is who? What? How are you feeling about the New Zealand scene in general at the moment? Like, obviously, New Zealand's going to be going through even tougher financial and economic times in terms of the industry than Australia, which is already doing it rough. But I guess yet again, I'm just hearing and seeing more and more quality things coming out of New Zealand music.
Well, I mean, sometimes those times where hard times,
tough people.
That's
tough people create.
Hard times make metal. Yeah.
There's always going to be room for music.
So when COVID hit, and everybody had lockdown, like we managed to like record and release our album.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that was a huge thing for us. Like
we recorded it in 2020 and released it in 2020.
I think like a lot of people did that. They managed to like fill their time.
Yeah.
Like we're not working. we're stuck here. What can we do?
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You could be another band, and they were having shows.
Sit down shows in front of a TV or some shit.
It said they finally got to put sold out on their poster, and then you're like, huh, sold out, and then you find out that the capacity's 20 people at the bar, and you have to sit down at a table.
You get to say sold out, but it's 5 people with cocktails that are clearly marked with walkways and everything.
Yeah,
it's
but
strange.
I guess people need live music.
Yeah.
And I think that the appetite for live music, and especially for bands like yourself, where it's a real show, I think post-pandemic, the kind of the demand for that has only increased. So I guess from my unprofessional perspective opinion, I get the sense that there's a renewed keenness to be going to shows, and I thought that was something that might kind of taper off a little, like that initial excitement. Yay, we're all out of lockdown. But I don't know about you guys, but specifically, like for you, within the last 2 years, you've actually done more touring. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like things are accelerating there. Like there's more demand to be going out and touring.
I don't know what that's down to.
Tony says, where you got to keep coming back and building that momentum. It is except man, just I wish we could do it more and have time to do all the other things, as much as it only is a few weeks out of the year when you go and do it. It's there's a lot of behind the scenes preparing for that shit. Things get old, things take ages, and then put on top of that, your 9 to 5 Monday to Friday work. It's just something's got to give. Whether it's playing lots and then not releasing, or releasing lots and not playing, something like that. It would be ideal to play lots and release lots. And
I think that's everyone's dream, but bit of a luxury, hey? Yeah. And on that note, around touring, are you guys planning on? You don't have to do any big reveals here for the Kiwi audience, but are you planning on doing any more local shows upcoming in the near future, or are you taking a bit of a break for a bit, or what's the sort of the idea there?
No, we don't need to get into that.
Oh yeah.
It can be mum.
We're just taking a tiny break from announcing. We've got shit lined up for sure, but things that aren't announced yet. So we're taking a wee break and really gonna hammer this project that's been on the burner for ages.
Another thing is that once you've got some momentum, keep that momentum going. Otherwise, you have that momentum and then you stop to do a show or stop to do this show and that show. You got to get back into that momentum again. It's just it's a bit more fucked up than you think. On paper, it sounds right. We'll do this, we'll play a show, we'll do this, we'll play a show. But having that momentum broken really, really pushes you back. So I think you just got to stop and just do one thing, which is fine. Still having fun, still doing things.
So how do you sort of do you guys find that? Do you find like practicing or going to shows, that sort of thing? Do you find that you have ways to kind of at least keep a little bit of reserve momentum? You know what I'm? That makes sense.
We don't. To be honest, we only really practice before we play.
Right.
And then it's either one thing or the other. It's like spreading your time across lots of things and doing them a bit averagely, or just kind of knuckling down and doing one thing right.
So I'll spend weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks up here in Stalker headquarters, just disappearing and up my own ass, making fucking ripping songs, and then I'll go to a show, which is just like a whatever show that Steve's going to the show. I haven't seen Steve. I'll go to the show and I'll get a beer, and then I'll be standing there watching this really average show, this band that kind of really sucks, but actually, like, fucking hell, I'm having the best time.
Yeah.
And like, and for all the right reasons, this band rules.
Yeah.
And you know, like, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
then I get really jazzed about music again, and like, oh, actually, like playing live isn't that hard. Like, look at this band; they're not really trying. And then look at me in the audience. I'm fucking like, this is the best I've ever had in my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I keep the spirit of that alive. Like, you know, yeah, it's cool and it's easy and it's fun.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people will assume that, you know, the tropes about musicianship, it's this very internal, introspective, oh, it comes from within. Here's 5 strategies to keep your, you know, your motivation, pop psychology, blah, blah, blah. But you guys are, the other thing I think people do forget, you musicians, you're embedded in the community. You go to shows, you see those
Like I
shows.
said about being in a band, it is a social thing. Yeah, that old phrase, like, man is not an island. You've heard that? You know, we live in a community. Yeah, you know, you can if it sounds good on paper, you know, to say that, you know, you spent, you know, a monastic sort of lifestyle and was, you know, like, this album, you know, I summoned some spell and all this thing is really good for a zine. But the reality is that, like, you're hanging out with your friends, listening to music, or, you know, and you know, also all sorts of things. It's a whole kaleidoscope of shit happening all at once, and you're not immune to that. You're not immune to propaganda.
Yeah, I don't think anyone truly is. I think to kind of put this all into a bit of perspective too, and I'm mindful too, like you're talking about some young lads that were really going for it, going to shows and the music community. And this is I'm sorry, I always feel like generic rock journalist when I ask this question, but I think to tie it all up in a nice kind of bow, I think particularly for you guys, so you've mentioned,
Favorite
right?
color?
Oh yeah, favorite color. Oh, I've got a couple of other interesting questions for you. Number one, Dave, what size staple are you using to staple your balls together for those piercing vocals?
Hang on, mate.
Hey, what?
What size staple? It's the smallest ones.
Yep. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
the ones.
What were you doing? Stapling your pants together?
Just to get vocals really high.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That went over my.
Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. So that's one bit of practical advice for the audience. You don't need to go industrial strength staples for the falsetto.
Well, my approach has always been like throwing myself, like, musically and vocally, just throwing yourself down a flight of stairs, really.
Okay.
Like skating for the first time each time.
Cool.
It's thrilling, and you're bound to fuck it up. And I do sometimes, but like,
well, I hope you still got
that
some,
is fun.
I hope you still got some highs in you for the new material. Otherwise, we might have to be getting the next staples up.
Well, next time,
get some bigger size things.
Next time you guys are in Melbourne, there's actually a place that's called like the 1,000 Steps. So maybe we roll you down there and you actually break the sonic barrier with your high vocals next time.
All right, that would definitely make a sick episode.
What is that?
It's just it's a trail that's apparently 1,000 steps and it's a hike you can do. But if a flight of
can do your 1,000-step trail, and I will bring in the steepest street nearly in the world in Dunedin, New Zealand.
Yeah, you guys have got us beat for geography in that sense.
I think someone died doing that. Shouldn't laugh.
People die like every couple of years from going down that street.
Damn.
On and in rubbish bins.
So really, I mean, it's pretty natural. All you got to do is hop on a skatey and go down that hill, and you've already got all the power metal vocals you'll ever need.
Imagine that. Right. Are you ready to hit record? About 100,000 foot microphone cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Joys of technology. And for
what's the sound of 1,000 sheep going down 1,000 steps?
Oh God, we're getting very philosophical towards this end of the interview, aren't we? So For kind of considering you talking a lot about like young folks in the scene, right? And the fact that Stalker is a bit of a band where there's not much of that sort of aesthetic and style. I guess there's a bit of a two-tiered question. So more in general, but also for maybe some young musicians wanting to go down that like classic traditional speed thrash heavy metal route. What advice would you give for some young New Zealanders looking to start a band at the moment? Because we've also talked a lot about the practical realities of being in a band in New
Mhm.
Zealand. What kind of key bits of advice
I
do you reckon you
would
could?
say just be true to yourself and do what you feel is is right.
There's no genre specific,
No.
Yeah,
like,
I
and
know.
there should be, even like that's probably like misleading,
Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm more on the sense that I like to follow rules, not in society, in
Mm,
music.
mm.
um, I like to keep things, the way they have been and always have been. But there's a downside to that too. So I think just, get stoked on just whatever you're stoked on. Just
Mm.
is just stop trying to do something else or be something else. I've learned a lot from Dave. I've always been, in saying that advice, I've always been the kind of person where it's like, no, it should sound like this. It has to be like that, where Dave's more like,
Fuck it.
yeah, fuck it. And I've learned, I've come full circle to now be like, fuck it.
Mm. And
So
yeah,
so like with anyone trying to get into music, you're probably already listening to songs that like pique your interest. uh just you don't just make a noise, like take a risk,
yeah,
be prepared to sound like a dickhead,
yeah.
you know.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you're not sounding like a dickhead, you're in it for the wrong reasons, really.
Yeah.
You like, are you doing it for fun, or are you doing it for attention, or because you think like your mum will, whatever, you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
do it
so
for
making it
yourself.
performative from the start and making it about like what accolades I could get versus I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah,
around, find out.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, easier said than done. No, unless you're like a natural, you learn these things on the way. But
Mm.
yeah, I've seen it happen in skating and music. People learn and progress and get to whatever. And then there's people that just come straight out the gate, just knowing what they're doing and what they want from an early age, and it's just crazy.
But I think for most people, it's just got to be more of that organic kind of process, right? Like you
And
mentioned,
I think
Dave.
most,
Like,
I think most people are. I don't,
Yeah.
but yeah.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, there's some advice for the little groms.
for the
Just
little
do it.
kids, little skater
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Please don't go down that hill in New Zealand, kids. That wasn't. We do not
Don't start at
endorse.
the top.
Hey,
Start halfway.
yeah,
You
start
got to warm
halfway.
up. Yeah.
That's a good musical metaphor as well too. You don't have to start at 100%.
Cool.
You can start
Yeah,
halfway.
no,
It's
that's
called.
that's really good. That's really, really good.
It's it's
Called. All right,
no.
you almost had it. The name of the street.
I was just gonna say the steepest street in the world. I saw this on the news.
That ain't it.
Is an oh no, it says here.
Baldwin
steepest,
Street.
yeah, Baldwin Street. Yeah.
Anyway,
So
Anyway,
the
yeah, enough of that.
the
You're
the
losing.
TLDR of that is
My
yeah.
attention's going now all over the
Yeah,
place.
oh yeah, no, that's okay. Look, I think we've had a real
You've
decent chat
also
here.
got 2 minutes 30 to wrap this up.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we're gonna have to connect
goddamn
and say
capitalism,
goodbye.
man. We're doing this despite capitalism, weather, and all other sorts of shenanigans. So, probably a good point to wrap it up so that mine and Chris's ADHD doesn't worsen. And Dave's sitting there going, "Why the hell are we talking about 1945 generals? We were talking about music, weren't we?" Um, but I just want to give a
you
solid
freaking.
a solid chirpo to you guys. I really enjoyed your set, and we're looking forward to catching you guys again soon. And once again, thanks to Anthony from Your Mate Bookings. Thanks to Abigail and all the bands. And you guys, I hope you enjoy your evening, and I hope you get to see some wicked shows soon too. Have some
Thank
fun
you.
of your own.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Absolute pleasure,
Yeah.
Brady.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Love your podcast. Love you to bits. Kiss you on the lips. See you later.
Oh, there we go. I won't try to kiss you on the lips through my mic at the end of the podcast, but the kiss is there. It's there in the heart. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you have a great evening, yeah?
You too, man.
See you later.
All right. Cheers, guys. Catch ya.